9:01, and we are going to open our meeting. This is the Swanee River Water Management District Governing Board meeting and public hearing. We're available on youtube.com at Swanee River Water Management District, and it is Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. And at this time, if everyone would rise, we'll say our invocation and pledge.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for this beautiful weather in North Florida. Father, we thank you for all the blessings, the springs, the waterways in our area. And Father, we say a special blessing this time of year for our veterans. Father, never let us forget the sacrifices made for our freedoms, for our ability to meet here today freely and speak our mind. Father, I pray your blessing on this staff that works so hard to protect the natural resources in our area. We ask these things today in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I suppose everybody had broken out their big jackets for today, and there was frost on the pumpkin for sure. We're going to go ahead and do a roll call.
Chair Johns.
Here.
Mr. Keith.
Here.
Mr. Schwab.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Sessions. Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Lloyd.
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any adjustments or changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am, no adjustments or changes to the agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. There is a list for our consent agenda. Everybody studied up. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll not be voting on the consent agenda due to items number 10, 11, and 12. All three are sibling organizations to my employer, Swanee Valley Feeds.
Thank you, sir. You got your paperwork in place?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. The next item we've got is our hydrologic conditions report. Yep. Oh, sorry, you are absolutely right. Is there anyone that would like to comment today during public comment at this time? I know I've got a couple of cards up here with different specific items that I can call later on. But general comment today? There being none, we'll close public comment and move on to, since we've already done our consent agenda, we will move on to our hydrologic conditions report. You've moved from
Yes,
there to
ma'am.
there.
Yes, ma'am. It's a little different for us, but we'll get it figured out.
All
So,
righty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, I'm here to present the hydrologic conditions report for October 2025. I'd like to thank this month Sarah Ferson. She sent over this great photo of Steinhatchee Falls. You'll notice that over there it's a little bit low. We're starting to see some of the geology, some of the limestone hanging out of the water at this point. I did want to point out at the Cross City gauge, she went out and snapped this photo on the 5th of November. It was 3.5 CFS, which puts it well below the 10th percentile in flow for the USGS statistics. And you can definitely see that from this photo. I did want to thank Sarah. I think it's a great photo, and I think it's a great way to start our hydro report for October 2025. Rainfall for October 2025, we had a district-wide average just a little bit over an inch and a half at 1.53. That's about 46% lower than that long-term average of 2.9 inches. I did want to mention that we increased our deficit district-wide from the end of September when it was 11.6 inches to a deficit of 11.8 inches at the end of October. And that's due to moving that window of time forward. We had 1.7 inches of rainfall in the calculation for October 2024, moving that forward and only picking up that 1.5 inches here for October 2025 did increase our deficit at the end of the month. Taking a look at the map, the 1 to 2 inch range this month actually incorporates that district-wide average for the month. That's because we had a skewness kind of in our rainfall for the month. Taking a look at this map, the less amounts of rainfall fell in the northern part of the district versus the southern part. That less than 1 inch in light blue, we see a lot of that up in the northern part of the district, even stretching down into Lafayette County and Gilchrist County as well. On the flip side of that, the 2 to 3 inch range is that first range higher than the average for the month, and that's in that green. 3 to 4 inch range in orange, 4 to 5 inch range in red. And in Levy County, we did see some more than 5 inches in that pink color. That's in our district and outside of our district as well. This is our departure from normal precipitation. This is from the National Weather Service. This actually ends this past Sunday, but this is from October 11th through November 9th. In our district, what we're seeing is deficits of anywhere from 1.5 inches to 3 inches in that orange color as we go in the northern part of our district. Southern part of the district, anywhere from breaking even to about 1.5 inches of rainfall deficits as well, as far as the departure from precipitation is concerned. 12-month surplus deficit, this is actually figure 3 in the report. I thought this was kind of important to show. These are our river basins for the Osceola, Suwannee, Coastal, Santa Fe, and Waukesasa. What really sticks out on this graphic is that kind of olive color. We see that pretty much all over in each of these river basins. That's a deficit greater than 14 inches over the past 12 months, ending October 2025. You see a lot of that in most of the basins, except for the Waukesasa. There's slight areas of that, but Waukesasa actually benefited from a little bit more rainfall this past month. So they had surpluses greater than 6 inches in areas in that purple color. On top of that blue color, where it's a surplus of anywhere from 2 to 6 inches, and a neutral condition, which is anywhere from 2 inches of deficit to 2 inches of surplus. Over on the table on the right, ending October 2025, I think it's important to go through these numbers. Osceola ended with a 14.1 inch deficit at the end of October. The Coastal Basin, 9.3 inch rainfall deficit at the end of October. Santa Fe, 14.4, Suwannee, 13.2, and the Waukesasa had the lowest of all at 5.6 inch rainfall deficit at the end of October. Stream flow conditions for October 2025, we're actually seeing those lower rainfall amounts in our discharges in the streams and rivers. We are getting mostly below normal to begin and end the month in our district gauges, and that's at 10th to 25th percentile. We did have some that began and ended the month in the normal, that 25th to 75th percentile. That includes the Finn Holloway, Suwannee at Ellaville, and Alapaha at Jennings, even up into South Georgia at Fargo on the Suwannee. Withlacoochee at Quitman and Alapaha at Alapaha all enjoyed normal flows to begin and end the month. Taking a look at some of the other areas, as I mentioned, the Steinhatchee began the month in the below, but it ended in the less than 10th percentile, as we saw in that first slide that I showed and the statistics I gave there. Looking over in the Santa Fe Basin, there was a little bit of an improvement in Fort White and Graham. They both went from the much below that 10th, less than 10th percentile to the 10th to 25th percentile. Fort White had a slightly higher flow at the end of the month, and Graham statistically was a little bit lower as far as the end of the month statistics from the USGS, so it benefited from that and was able to go up as a little bit of an improvement to that below normal and from the much below normal category. Upper Florida and aquifer levels, this is the end of September. I wanted to show this to compare with what we had in October, but what we were seeing in September, I think this was about the first time we started seeing a lot more wells in that 10th to 25th percentile, kind of all over the district, really seeing those. Most of the districts still in that 25th to 75th percentile range, though. We did have a couple of wells, one down in Gilchrist County and one over in Suwannee County, all at 75th to 90th percentile. And most of our wells still benefiting from that normal range, that 25th to 75th percentile. I did want to mention too, since from August to September, not a whole lot of rainfall, actually a little bit less than average there. So most of our wells were trending down at that point. Fast forward to October, we do see an expansion of that 10th to 25th percentile. I believe every county has at least one well in that 10th to 25th percentile range. We did end up with 3 wells, one over in Jefferson County, one in Lafayette County, and one in Columbia County, that all showed below 10th percentiles. Other than that, we do still have quite a few wells in the 25th to 75th across the district, mainly closer to that 25th versus this 50th or 75th percentile, really the low end of that range. Most of our wells still trending downward at that point due to the lower than average rainfall that we had in October of 2025. This is our U.S. Drought Monitor. This was released last Thursday. We're expecting an update this week, but I wanted to show the Southeast, not just the state of Florida, to show the extensive nature of this drought that we're going through. Alabama, Georgia, even the Carolinas and Virginia are all showing parts of moderate drought, abnormally dry, severe drought, et cetera. Within our district, though, down in South Levy County, we're seeing abnormally dry. As we move up to the central part of our district, we've got moderate drought, that D1 category. A little bit north of there, we're seeing parts of Taylor County, Suwannee County, Columbia County, even over into Baker County in that severe drought, that D2. And the biggest part of this is that extreme drought, which stretches over to the Panhandle and into South Georgia and into a few of our counties in North Florida, and that's the extreme drought, that D3. I do expect maybe for a little bit of expansion of that this coming update this Thursday, but we'll have to wait and see what they predict for that. I did want to mention we are still in a La Nina advisory, and that's expected to continue through the end of the year. That's going to switch over to an El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral condition, kind of back to where we were prior to this La Nina. It's going to be a really short-lived one, at about a 55% chance from anywhere from January to March of next year. With that said, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's seasonal outlook for November through January is predicting us to have below normal rainfall probabilities, and it looks like it's going to be about around 40 to 50% chance according to the color on the map. We're also, from November through January, we're going to see above normal temperature probabilities as well. I know not from this morning, it definitely doesn't seem like that, but on average for the next 3 months, we should see that, both of which are characteristics of that La Nina that we're currently under an advisory for. All right, our 2025 Atlantic hurricane season update. I wanted to mention that since our last board meeting, we had one more hurricane to add to this list, or cross off this list, rather. That was Major Hurricane Melissa, which kind of devastated parts of, actually most of Jamaica into Cuba and some parts of the Bahamas as well. It was one of the strongest they had on record in the Caribbean that actually made landfall. That puts us up at 13 named storms total, which is on the low end of the prediction from the National Hurricane Center. They predicted 13 to 18. Of that, we've had 5 hurricanes so far this year. That's on the low end as well. But we've also, of those 5, 4 of those have been major hurricanes. So that's a little bit on the higher end of the prediction that the National Hurricane Center made back in August. This, of course, is from Monday. I looked at this morning, still showing tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, so that's definitely a good thing for us. Atlantic hurricane frequencies, I wanted to point out, we're just on this side of November 10th. Not a whole lot left. We've got roughly 18, 19 days, I think, left in the season until it officially ends at the end of this month. But all it takes is one, so once again, stay prepared and keep our eyes on the news if anything does form within the next few days. All right, finally, our October 2025 summary, we had a rainfall amount of just over an inch and a half, and that was about 46% lower than that long-term average of 2.9 inches. We did increase our deficit, as I mentioned, from September when we had an 11.6-inch deficit to a deficit of 11.8 inches, and that's just due to moving the window of time forward. District-wide upper Florida and aquifer levels did fall from the 39th percentile at the end of September to the 32nd percentile at the end of October, and that's due to the median level decrease across our monitored wells of about 0.6 of a foot. As I mentioned, La Nina conditions are currently present. Looks like that's going to be kind of a short-lived thing. It's going to persist from December through February. We look to transition back to that El Nino Southern Oscillation neutral condition at about a 55% chance from January to March of 2026. Abnormally dry conditions exist in southern Levy County, moderate drought in our central part of our district. As we start to move north, we've got severe drought and extreme drought in some of our counties up in the northern part of our district, according to this last update of the U.S. Drought Monitor. And finally, 13 named storms so far in 2025. Of those, we've had 5 hurricanes, and of those 5 hurricanes, 4 of those have been major hurricanes. With that, Madam Chair, I'll take any questions the board may have.
Any questions from the board? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I got it.
Yep, okay.
Robbie, if we're at 32% aquifer levels, at what point does it become so critical that that wells start going dry? I mean, I know there's some areas where we're down in the under 10 percentile or 10% or under now. Is that the cautionary or the number that starts happening, or is it lower than that?
Madam Chair, there's really not a certain percentile that they'll actually go dry. It just depends on the geology of the area and then where the well is in our district, if it's close to the coast versus up in the northern part of our district. We haven't seen any, as far as I know, go dry. Well, actually, I know we haven't seen any go dry currently. I know that we had quite a few record setters back in 2011 and 2012 prior to Tropical Storm Debbie. But that one actually, I don't believe any went dry. I think it was mainly just down at the lowest that we've ever collected, the lowest percentile. But I'm not aware of any particular percentile that we can just say, hey, we're going to start to go dry here. Mainly what the percentiles are based on is just the record that we have in-house. It's the highest we've ever gotten, the lowest we've ever gotten, and where does the current value fall in. Doesn't necessarily mean the aquifer is going to go dry at that point. It's just what we've got as record in-house.
Right. Would those records go back into the late 90s as well? I mean, that you're referring to the 2011, 12 levels were lower than the late 90s? Because I know there was a severe drought back in the late 90s as well.
Madam Chair, I would have to check on the late 90s. I know these wells that we use for this report begin no earlier than 1976. So a lot of that data we would have in-house for the 1990s for sure. A lot of these wells, some of these wells actually go back farther than 1976, but that's kind of where we use our all percentiles cutoff at. We are looking to have a potential workshop, I guess, for the next board meeting and kind of present the board with a little bit more information on stuff like that. If that's something you would like me to add, I can absolutely add that to a presentation.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Just on a note, I am old enough to have been around long enough to be associated with people who lived back before I was born, but the historical record, I think, would reflect that in 1957, this area was in an extreme drought. That was the year before the floods, or the river flood of 1958, which flooded the town of Branford and many other areas as well. But it was said back then that that was the historical drought of record at that point.
In the 1990s?
Yeah, the Swanee River practically quit flowing, is what I was told there at Branford. That it was the algae and whatnot came almost all the way across the river. They said the width of the stream running through there just before where the bridge is at was like maybe 20 feet wide.
Wow.
So it can get dry, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully we don't experience anything like that. But
Did you say that you experienced that?
No, I didn't.
You saw that yourself?
No, I did not. Not that old.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just asking. Okay.
I
Just
wasn't in
make sure.
57, I was in 58 though. Barely.
Madam Chair, I do have some bonus slides, if you will, I've done some levels, some plots of levels for the current condition versus what we had in 2016 versus what we had in 2011. If that would help, I can go through some of these real quick. Okay, so first, this is Swanee at White Springs, and as I mentioned, I went ahead and plotted 2011. That's pre-Debbie that came through in 2012. 2016 is pre-Irma, and then, of course, now October of 2025. So at White Springs, what we're currently looking like is just above where we were in 2016. And from this graphic, you can actually see this is where Debbie came through, and this is where Irma came through. It's really pronounced in the Swanee River at White Springs. We go to Branford. We're just about right where we were at this point in time in 2016. Once again, you can kind of see this is where Debbie, this is where Irma came through as far as Branford is concerned. At the Santa Fe at Fort White, we're about right where we were in 2011 prior to Debbie coming through in 2012. It's hard to see, but it's right down, almost on top of that line, that blue line down there. Steinhatchee at Cross City, once again, we're really close to where we were in 2011, just a little bit below where we were in 2016. And I plotted the Econfine at Perry as well. This one just slightly below where we were in 2016, but a couple feet, it looks like, above where we were in 2011. So maybe that would kind of give a good idea of where we are river level-wise versus where we were in the past couple of dry times. Hopefully that gives a good idea.
We just need a low velocity Debbie.
I would take a tropical storm for sure, or even a depression.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
So Robbie, does April, I don't know whether there's any forecasts out that far, but the El Nino maybe would be here by then? Is the April, March, April, I think March generally is pretty dry, but April, May, and June are wetter seasons?
Madam Chair, what I've seen as far as the NOAA forecasts going out, I've seen through March, it looks like we're going to be below normal for rainfall. But after that point, it's kind of a toss-up. They do show that it's equal chances of either high, average, or low. So I honestly, probably just because it's so far out, they kind of don't know. Their models can't really predict out that far. So I'm thinking that once we get closer to that time, we'll know. But it does look like this dry is going to be here, according to National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, until at least March, is what they're saying now. That's what I've seen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
like the bonus slides, are very helpful.
Okay. All right. And as I mentioned, we're looking to do a workshop next month in December, and I can go into a little bit more depth on some of this information.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I've got some guests here on my cards. Is there anybody we need to recognize at this point, or we'll wait until the numbers come up?
No, ma'am, I don't really have anybody additional. I think some of the guests that you're referring to are here to speak on behalf of item 26.
Okay,
But they do represent some of the utilities, the Jacksonville Electric Authority, Clay County Utility, and then also Gainesville Regional Utilities as well. They're here to speak on it.
all right, good deal. We'll wait and look forward to hearing from them then. when, item
Madam Chair, if I may
26.
add
Yep.
one more, I'd
Yep.
be remiss if I didn't recognize, and I think that he is here possibly to speak on the same item, but we do have a former Swanee River District employee here, Mr. Carlos Hurd, who has joined us as well. So I'd like to recognize him also.
Welcome back. Oh, dear. Then I think we have a service recognition, or a couple.
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. And neither of these gentlemen actually need introduction, but we do want to recognize their time of service here at Swanee River Water Management District. So I'd like to ask Tim and Sean, to come up and join me over here. Both of these gentlemen have served here at Swanee River for 5 years now, and we appreciate the work that they do on behalf of the district. Tim joined the district in November of 2020, and he joined as a community affairs manager, and then he was promoted to deputy executive director of business and community services, and he continues to serve in that role today, as well as the assistant executive director. You all know, I rely on him very heavily for the work here at the district. Prior to joining the district, he built a distinguished 30-year career in local government administration, emergency management, and pre-hospital medical care. He's also served his community through 6 consecutive terms on the Dixie County School Board, where he's held the position of board chairman since 2003. You know that takes a special type of person to serve on a school board, much less for that duration of time with it. In his current role, Tim oversees several key departments, including the Office of Administration, Finance, Human Resources, Information Technology Services, and the Resource Management Division. He provides strategic oversight of the district's budget preparation and management, procurement processes, directives, procedures, project development, strategic planning, and contract management. He's actively involved in the district operations and staff management, ensuring compliance with our internal policies as well as state and federal laws and rules and statutes. He serves as liaison to our federal, state, and local officials, and assists with ombudsman-related materials with it. And as the district's emergency coordinating officer, he plays a vital role in guiding our response during active times and preparation for that. And he finds great fulfillment in learning new approaches, improving processes, and deepening his understanding of the district's core mission. Outside of work, he spends time with his wife and daughter, Brenda, his wife of 33 years, and his daughter Ashton. And he's active in his church and community as an avid sportsman who enjoys hunting, fishing, and other outdoor recreations, and recently was able to harvest a very nice buck with that. So, Tim, thank you for your 5 years of service here. Next, I'd like to recognize Sean King. I know you all are very familiar with Sean. He oversees our minimum flows and minimum water levels office. And he joined the district in November of 2020 as well, as the MFL office chief within the Water and Land Resources Division. He serves as technical expert, leads a team of scientists and engineers to establish our MFLs for priority water bodies and developing surface and groundwater models. And as you all well know through various presentations, very knowledgeable in that field. We're fortunate to have him here working with us. Prior to joining the district, he worked in the private sector as a senior engineer, where he led the analysis, design, and project management activities for innovative water resource improvement projects. He also worked at the Southwest Florida Water Management District as a staff engineer in the spring and environmental flows section of the Natural Systems and Restoration Bureau. There he conducted technical analysis for MFLs and springs assessment, and he developed restoration projects for priority spring systems. So his expertise comes in very handy with where we're at these days in Suwannee. In 2012, he completed his doctoral research at the University of Florida in the Environmental Sciences program, where he studied the effects of hydrology and water quality on aquatic ecosystems in Florida springs and other riverine systems. Sean enjoys exploring and paddling Florida's springs, rivers, and cooking and gardening and cheering for the Florida Gators. They had a win last night on their basketball team, so go Gators, and spending time with his family. So Sean, thank you. And that concludes the recognition portion, Madam Chair. I think I'm being told that he would like a picture.
I think that would be a
You all are
great
okay with
idea.
that?
Everybody scooch in if you can for me. Perfect. 1, 2. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. And we really appreciate the years of staff and your expertise and really count on you a lot. So thank you. All right, we're going to move right on to Tom Reeves.
I'm proud to say that we don't have anything to say.
That is, Good. Any questions for Tom?
I'm so proud that you're here on time this month. And then you don't have anything to report, so do we need to dock you pay for that? I appreciate your service, sir. You're awesome. Thank you. Keep us out of trouble.
Hi, Tim.
So, Madam Chair, members of the board, those in attendance, good morning. First, I would just like to say that I truly feel blessed to have been able to work here for the last 5 years. We have great staff, we've got great leadership, and we got great board members, so not much more you can ask for. For Business and Community Services, I would ask that you find items number 9 through 18 on this morning's agenda. Item 9 is a facilities update, which will be given by Ben Glass. Items number 10 through 14 were ag cost share items that were approved by way of consent agenda, as well as item number 15, the monthly financial report. So thank you for approving those items. And then item number 16 is a budget modification for your consideration and approval, and this will be presented by our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Pam Shaw. And then items number 17 and 18 are just informational items, but Leroy Marshall is here if you have any questions on those. So I'll ask Ben to come forward.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Quick update for you on our facilities.
How's baby?
Baby's good, baby's good.
Good.
She's,
All right.
We've been thinking about and praying for you.
appreciate that, yep. We're hoping maybe by Thanksgiving, but definitely by Christmas, we'll have her home.
Excellent. Excellent.
Appreciate that. So for facilities this morning, as you saw when you walked up, we're rounded the building and coming down the home stretch with the siding. We've got the portion directly behind us against the finance offices to complete. But once that's done, other than a few items to button up, we'll be wrapping up that portion of the project and then looking to move forward with the building that we're sitting in. Hopefully looking to bid that out around January. As far as budget and time goes, we're a little bit ahead of schedule and we are on budget. So
Wonderful.
happy to answer any questions.
Well, the color looks better.
Yes. Doesn't look like a Wawa anymore. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, there was one suggestion from the staff on one of the wings over here that has a kind of a courtyard in there, got grass that may it's off so we can have our dogs come in and while we're at meetings and stuff and stay in that courtyard. But I'm not suggesting that for mine personally. I mean, maybe for the staff.
We'll take that under advisement.
Okay, all right. Maybe some scrap lumber or something, put a little fence up there and make it look good, you know.
Any questions for Ben? All right, it's looking great. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
It's a long way around, isn't it, Pam? I know.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I do have one item for you. It's the FY 24-25 budget modification, and it's very small, and I'm almost embarrassed to bring it to you, but at the end of the fiscal year, we do have an opportunity to bring any modifications to you. And so while it doesn't affect the overall budget for the FY 25 budget, based on the actual expenditures, we did need one minor modification. And okay, so good. What it is we're just kind of moving, as you can see from the here, the presentation, we're having to move about $349 of salary and benefits from our general fund over to our federal special revenue fund. These were reimbursed expenditures under a grant that we failed to budget there. And then we just needed to reclassify some contractual services and interagency expense. Very minor, very simplistic, but we just needed to ask for authorization to move these items. So the district, the recommendation is to authorize the fiscal year 2024-2025 adopted budget modification.
Is there a motion? Motion to approve. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Tim. All right, we will move into outreach and operations.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The Division of Outreach and Operations has 6 items for your consideration today. 3 items are for informational purposes. Items 21 and 22 I'll be presenting, and item number 24 will be presented by Lorna Radcliffe. With that, we'll get started with our first item. This is a conservation easement with Manulife Investment Group for the Otter Creek Conservation Easement in Levy County. In December of the year 2000, the district acquired a conservation easement over the Otter Creek property, as you see indicated in the map, in Levy County. As part of that conservation easement, the landowner requested several terms that they would like to keep, and subsequently, the landowner Manulife reached out to the district in July of 2025, requesting clarification on the amendment language to allow specifically for gopher tortoise mitigation recipient sites, as well as clarify allowable activities for plant and animal mitigation activities, apiary leases, pine straw raking, stream mitigation activities, wetland and carbon mitigation activities, as well as biodiversity credits. You may recall several months ago, the district, we brought to you the Cedar Hammock conservation easement amendment as well. This is with the same landowner, and they have been good partners with the district. Staff believe that in allowing these terms is mutually beneficial to the district and to the landowner, that it benefits the resources, given that these terms requested by the landowner increase the conservation value and the conservation activities being allowed. Governing board directive that you see listed here allows that mutually beneficial amendments can come directly to the board, hence our bringing this to you today. Staff determined that this net increase will increase the conservation value and has met the requirements of the directive. Manulife has reimbursed the district for all costs incurred by processing the amendment, which they've already prepaid. And pursuant to the directive, the executive director may bypass the lands committee where it's mutually beneficial. And with that, Madam Chair, we request a third amendment to the Otter Creek Conservation Easement with Manulife Investment Management Group in Levy County.
Make that motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. At this time, would anyone like to speak on this item? Any questions on this item? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The next item for the board's consideration today is the corrective deed on a surplus that was previously conducted in Suwannee County. In September of 2012, the board approved Resolution 2012-26, which approved the sale of property between the Water Management District and Anthony Bogus for just under 30 acres in Suwannee County. At that time, the deeds were exchanged. However, in October of this year, we were notified that there was a legal description containing a minor error and a request for a corrective deed. The original deed incorrectly labeled a call as 416.15 feet. However, the correct call should be 451.15 feet. The surveyor's map is correct, but the number in the legal description on the deed is incorrect. The new survey shows the corrected legal description. Based on the maps that were approved in 2012, it does appear that this land was intended to be conveyed. Therefore, staff requests that the board approve the corrective deed between the district and Mr. Bogus for 29 acres in Suwannee County.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you,
All right.
ma'am.
And Madam Chair, the last item for your consideration today is approval of Governing Board Directive 25-0008. This is to outline guidelines for the implementation of what we call here permissive use agreements. The purpose of this directive, and this is the first one that's been created, is to outline how staff would develop and administer permissive use agreements between the district and landowners to carry out the goals of the district's mission. The district partners with willing landowners through permissive use agreements to allow the district and its agents, so our contractors or partners, to utilize non-district property to carry out the core mission areas of our programs. The use of non-district property may include, but it's not limited to, hydrologic and water quality monitoring, transversing a private landowner or another landowner's property to access district property, or for temporary sampling, things of that nature. Permissive use agreements, I think it's important for the board to understand they are non-binding and they are utilized for specific limited purposes. They do not convey any interest in the property and may be revoked at any time by either party. The agreements do not include compensation, and the district is responsible for maintaining the property to its original state. This is the first directive, as I mentioned, and would become effective immediately. These may be executed by the executive director or a designee, and we map all and record all of, not record in the clerk's office, in our records, all of these easements. Not easements, agreements.
I make the motion, Madam Chair.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the items for the Division of Outreach and Operations. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Brown.
So good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I have two items today. The first is just a brief verbal update, and Robbie already covered that we will be looking at more detail at water shortage at the next meeting, just doing a workshop on the process and how our conditions look relative to past dry times at the district. So if there are questions that you'd like us to address as a part of that workshop, please feel free to reach out and let us know if there are specific things to address. We'll be looking in comparison to previous dry times that we've had. The other item I have is item number 26 on Water Resources, page 1. This item has a three-part recommendation to it, and so what I'd like to do is step through some background and do a brief presentation to talk through the elements. So this is just an outline of the information that I'll go through during this presentation. I know you've heard some of this information before. I'm hoping that we're actually reaching the culmination of moving this process to the next step, so I just want to step through everything one more time. Starting with just the definition and reminder on minimum flows. They're the limit at which further withdrawals would be significantly harmful to the water resources or the ecology of the area. This is one of the key components to regional water supply planning, is understanding what the minimum flows are and seeking to identify ways that we can meet our projected future demands while sustaining our natural systems. We have been in a joint planning region with the St. John's District. Coordination started back in 2008, and a formal partnership was entered into by the districts and DEP in 2011. Carlos Hurd is here today because he is now the North Florida Regional Coordinator, and we appreciate having him working at the St. John's District, but really understanding the background of the Suwannee District as it relates to the partnership. These regional water supply plans are important because we have identified that there are shared resources and shared impacts to some of the systems in the Suwannee District that are occurring based on regional water use. We have been doing joint planning with the St. John's District. The first plan was approved in 2017, and the first update to that plan was approved in 2023. The Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers were initially, the initial MFL was set back in 2014 by DEP, and it was ratified in 2015 and went into effect. It applied to both districts because it was set by DEP. The first recovery strategy included a requirement to reassess this MFL, and so that reassessment is what is driving us towards moving this MFL forward today. The regional water supply plans have been a critical component because they have been the location where we've been identifying and developing projects to help us meet our future needs while maintaining our natural systems. Just as a refresher, with the updated Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee MFLs, 3 compliance points were examined. The Ichetucknee at Highway 27, the Santa Fe River at Highway 441, which is a new gauge for this effort, and then the Santa Fe River at Fort White. 2 of those 3 gauges were identified as being in recovery, meaning the system is not currently meeting the proposed MFLs, and therefore a recovery strategy is required. So one of the components that we're recommending today is an implementation strategy that identifies a path to get the system to recovery. In order to move a recovery strategy forward, there are multiple components. The revised 2025 implementation strategy includes a non-regulatory or project component, and then also a regulatory component. The regulatory components are the revisions to the existing rules that govern these water bodies, which were adopted in 2015. This presentation focuses on the non-regulatory components, including projects, initiatives, and efforts to both put projects in place to recover the system and also to track the progress of those projects through time. This slide provides some additional detail on the magnitude of the flows that need to be recovered. These flows are in CFS, so there's a 1 CFS recovery required at the Lower Santa Fe at Highway 441, and a 6.3 CFS recovery at Highway 27. That represents about 0.6 million gallons per day at Highway 441 and about 4.1 million gallons per day at the Ichetucknee at Highway 27. If we look into the future, based on the projected future demands for water in the area, we will be looking at potentially a deficit of 17.3 CFS at Highway 441 and Ichetucknee River at Highway 27 if we just meet our future demands based on traditional water supplies. So this is where the project development comes in to identify alternatives that allow us to meet those needs without putting additional strain on the resources. These are the requirements of an implementation strategy. Again, this is the non-regulatory component that we'll be focusing on today, with DEP setting the regulatory component. So we're looking at a phased implementation and the development of additional water supplies and implementation of conservation as well as other measures to allow us to achieve the recovery. Because this is an outstanding Florida spring, there are some additional requirements that apply to this recovery strategy, specifically relevant to our efforts here today. Item D, which identifies financial assistance requirements, is something that the St. John's District will be looking at. So their approval of the implementation strategy would be a commitment of approximately $100 million towards the recovery of the systems. The Suwannee District does not fall within that requirement to fund at 25%, but we will be also obligating staff and time and resources towards the recovery of this system. In addition, requirement F talks about the timeline, and so the implementation plan is designed to recover the system within 20 years, and that is what we will be tracking as a part of the implementation plan, is the progress towards recovering the system within that 20-year time frame. There are also some additional requirements as it relates to the details associated with the projects being developed that are covered on this slide. The regional project options that are identified in the implementation strategy that's in your board project include 4 core projects, and then it also includes an update to the projects associated with the North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan, which is over 100 additional projects that are included. In general, those are more local scale projects, but are also critical to move forward to meet the needs of the region. There are 2 aquifer recharge projects, and there are 2 conservation projects that are highlighted as core projects within the strategy. Here's some additional information about those regional projects. The Black Creek Water Resource Development Project. This project was initially developed by the St. John's District as a regional solution to address recovery for Lakes Brooklyn and Geneva, which are 2 lakes that are located within the joint partnership region. In addition to benefiting those lakes, this project will also benefit the Santa Fe and to a lesser extent the Ichetucknee rivers. It's also the example of one of the first regional recharge projects that was conceptualized and involved partnerships to implement a solution that addresses recovery and allows for supplying sufficient water to meet projected future demands. The Water First North Florida project, which I'll talk more about on additional slides, would be a recharge project, also regional in nature, that would recharge highly treated reclaimed water. This would be a 40 MGD project, which is about 60 CFS. Then there are also 2 conservation projects, one focused on public supply and the growth in public supply and trying to ensure conservation, and the other focused on agricultural water conservation. Just want to emphasize that aquifer recharge as a part of the solution to meeting future demands is not new in this area. And these recharge projects have been investigated, and we have some examples of successful recharge projects already in place in the region. The Black Creek Regional Project, which I already mentioned, is at about 98% completion at this point in time. So they're already constructing it and they're doing the final hydration of the treatment cells that would be used to clean the water in advance of recharging it to Lakes Brooklyn and Geneva. This project provides about 7.5 million gallons per day of aquifer recharge, which is about 11.6 CFS. The North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan project conceptualization effort is the effort that came up with the Water First North Florida project. This was a cooperative agreement between DEP, the two water management districts, and some of the larger utilities in the area. There was a recognition that in order to achieve long-term sustainability of water resources, we need to look at large-scale regional projects. And the objective of this effort was to identify large-scale regional projects that would meet the demands not of any individual entity, but of the region as a whole, so that we could move forward and identify solutions for the future. This is a list of some of the project conceptualization steps that were identified. Water First North Florida rose to the top of the list because it addressed the full recovery and prevention needs of the region at both the Santa Fe and Ichetucknee. And the capital cost was lesser than the desalination options at the bottom, that although they could meet the needs of the region, are very expensive. The Water First North Florida project is basically a regional project where reclaimed water would be taken from the utilities in the St. Johns region. They would be taken to a treatment wetland within the St. Johns region, and then after exiting that wetland, they would be moved to recharge sites that would be optimized to meet the recovery needs of the Ichetucknee and Santa Fe rivers, with the hope that we can also achieve a regional benefit that would be beneficial to the Suwannee River as well. There is a long history of treatment wetlands in this area, including the Lake City treatment wetlands that we have here in our district, as well as Sweetwater Wetland Park at Gainesville Regional Utilities. We are also working on the GRU Wetland Park that is currently being constructed, and that's being project managed through the Suwannee District. These are not just places to treat water, but also regional amenities that can be beneficial beyond just the treatment of water. In addition to those two recharge projects, though, conservation remains critical to making sure we can meet all of our future demands. So enhancing residential water conservation through the region is going to be a focus, especially as we talk about new construction and making sure that new construction that is coming in is being built as efficiently as possible. Agricultural water conservation is also key to this area. In addition to the standard conservation measures that we've been looking at, there's also going to be an added emphasis on the metering and monitoring associated with water use to ensure we understand as much as possible about regional water use, even as we're optimizing our efficiency solutions. Ben's going to speak more about the cost share program at a workshop at this meeting. We'll talk about how we move that process forward. There are regulatory components associated with this rule. The draft rule includes water conservation requirements, requires offsets for growth, and it requires monitoring in some places where monitoring has not been previously required. There are also some other components, including requiring us to have enhanced tracking of where landscape irrigation wells are going in public service areas to make sure that we're appropriately accounting for that water and looking at it in terms of the long-term plans. Since DEP's MFL recovery strategy exceeds $1 million, the rules cannot become effective until after legislative ratification. So if both the Suwannee District here and the St. Johns District, which is considering a similar item, approve this non-regulatory component, then DEP will proceed with a publication of a notice of proposed rule to advance the rulemaking process forward. These are the three documents that you're being asked to consider today. The first is the 2025 implementation strategy for the lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers and Priority Springs. This would be implemented upon ratification by the legislature of updated rules by DEP. B is an addendum to the lower Santa Fe Basin Recovery Strategy. So this is the 2014 recovery strategy that we're currently operating under today. And the goal would be to update this document to add in the projects that I've discussed today and the projects that have been a part of the North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan to associate those with the existing recovery strategy. That allows us to get to work on some of these items even in advance of any consideration by the legislature of updated rules. And then Part C is an update to the 2023 North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan, again, to ensure that the projects that are listed and the ones that we're focused on for recovering the system are identified within that document so that we can proceed with moving forward. Another item under consideration today by the St. John's District is a $2.1 million siting study. What this study will be doing is looking at optimizing the location for both the recharge sites, both the water treatment sites for the initial treatment wetland and potential recharge sites within the Suwannee District. So we'll be cooperators on that study. And I think I will pause here for questions before I move to the recommendation.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Dr. Brown, on the two projects, I'm just trying to get a grasp on the figures. The OEM on the 7.5 million Black Creek project was 5 million a year. And then on the 40 million proposed project, the OEM, from here, it looks like 15. Is it 16? You know, 3 times the amount, but a lot more water. And then the construction capital outlay. Is the capital outlay strictly the amount of piping involved? Or are we using a different process to treat the water that's less cost-effective OEM?
So that the processes that will be used to treat the water would need to be identified as a part of the siting study that's happening, that's going to be happening. So these are estimates based on some initial work that was done to try to estimate what the costs would be. But we're going to have to refine those O&M costs based on what type of recharge, so what type of treatment occurs at the wetland, and then also what type of recharge ultimately occurs. You could potentially treat the water in the wetland, move it further west, and then recharge it through a natural feature. But you could also potentially move it further west and put it into an injection well. That would require a higher quality of treatment because it would be going directly into the potable aquifer. But there also the thought for the Water First North Florida project, it is unlikely that there would be a single site of recharge. And so the O&M costs would likely be greater because you would be potentially treating it in one place, moving it, and then recharging it in one or more locations.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm getting at is the difference in the two projects. It's the same treatment type for the effluent?
No.
It is different.
Yes.
Okay, so there's where the difference in the OEM and the construction cost.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this is a new, more innovative process, or was it not available when they did Black Creek?
The requirements for
Did we
Black,
learn about it from Black Creek?
the requirements for the treatment of Black Creek, because at that point, you're taking water from a natural system, you're treating it for color, to remove color, to put it into a lake feature. In this case, you're taking reclaimed water, you'd be running it through a treatment wetland to address any supplemental treatment requirements that would be needed, and then it would be recharging. And depending, again, if it's recharging to a surface feature, it would have one set of requirements. If it's recharging into the potable aquifer, that changes the treatment requirements and would require a higher level of treatment.
The one big difference too between Black Creek and Water First is you're taking excess water in the Black Creek
Correct.
situation, which right now we probably don't have any.
Correct.
So the other one is reclaimed water, which would be abundantly available as long as there's people using the utilities in JEA and so forth.
Yes, sir, yes. This would be an example of a time where having that sustained supply of water would be beneficial for the water resources that we have in this area.
Madam Chair, if I could add a comment to that, and I think Amy will speak to this some. The siting study that she mentioned that St. John's is voting on today, with that, from the recharge aspect of it, which in that graphic, it's kind of the cone shape. or pie wedge shaped area in general. So we're looking at multiple recharge locations, which is going to add cost because of the multiplicity of it. Whereas with the Black Creek project, and certainly Carlos could correct me on this if I'm wrong, but with the Black Creek project, you have one surface water recharge site instead of multiple sites. So all of those factors will add cost in to it, Mr. Charles.
I'm looking at it, other than the cost of construction, obviously, the initial outlay, it looks like it's more efficient, it's doing more fluid for the OEM than the already successful Black Creek project. It looks like it's a step up. I mean, there's more outlay, I get it, but the OEM by million gallons is better, it's cheaper.
We certainly hope that's the way it turns out with it, and certainly that's something that'll come back to this board as we make progress with this project.
Well, I'm excited about the project, it's been a long time coming.
Any other questions from the board at this time?
Have a comment. I think I probably would echo everybody on this board, certainly myself, but I think that, well, first of all, I'm honored and happy to be on a board that can make an approval of a project today or an implementation of a strategy at least to get us to a point where we're, where we need to be. I mean, that one project, the Florida First project, would put us back in recovery at 2045, which takes into account growth and so forth. So, as Mr. Charles said, it's been a long time coming, and a lot of people worked on it a long time before I became on this board, and the strategy will hopefully be going forward and be fully implemented long after I'm gone from this board, but it's a happy day. It's a good day.
Madam Chair? Yeah, I'd just like to make some comments regarding this as well. I mean, we've been looking at these systems in recovery and prevention for quite some time. And, when you look at the way I look at it, the conservation measures that we take certainly have the lowest cost to implement and to impact water. It just doesn't have scale. And in a project like this, when we have water that's already being used by the growth that's come to our state, we have an opportunity now to reuse that, put it back in, using systems that have already been developed. We've got great models at GRU, and there's many others. And we can, reuse water that would otherwise flow out to sea to recharge our aquifer. And the numbers, although it's a big price tag, and I think we all have concerns about how we're going to fund it, if we're serious about solving these issues, it's going to take projects like this to do it. And they're not at a detriment to the growth of our area. And we can continue to protect our natural resource at the same time supporting our economies that are part of our culture, part of the fabric of our rural communities. Again, I'm excited about where this may go.
Okay, when can we get started? I know it has to go through our board, St. John's, DEP, and the ratification of the rules, and I don't know how long the siting study might take. Is there any prediction?
Well, I will tell you that in order for us to truly be able to get started, really the key step is the approval of these 3 documents. Because what that does is that puts these projects into a recovery strategy benefiting an outstanding Florida spring. And it allows some of the cooperators to pivot towards directly funding this project and moving it forward, even in advance of the rule being considered before the legislature. So the presence of the projects in the existing recovery strategy allow us to move forward on it right away. I would have to refresh myself on the time frame for the siting study. It is going to be an extensive effort because it's going to be looking both at the treatment wetland and at the recharge locations. And so we can come back to you with updates on how that is progressing through time.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? You've all been very good, and I think we're all very supportive. So is there a recommendation then?
Want to do the recommendation and then comment, or?
Actually, I've got two cards right here. And I didn't know, is this the time that we would like to have some comment from our audience? Good, okay, all right. The first one would be Jeremy Johnston. Hello, thank you for coming today.
Good morning, Madam Chair and governing board members. My name is Jeremy Johnston, and I serve as the Executive Director for the Clay County Utility Authority. On behalf of our Board of Supervisors and the entire CCOA team, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. I'll begin by acknowledging all the work involved in developing the 2025 implementation strategy and the addendum to the 2014 recovery strategy of the Lower Santa Fe, Itchitucknee River and Prairie Springs MFL, as well as the addendum to the 2023 North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan. We greatly appreciate the effort undertaken to develop and update these documents to include the key to the MFL recovery strategy, the Water First North Florida project. CCOA maintains a practice of forward-looking for long-term value for our customers. We began investing in reclaimed water infrastructure in the 1990s. 5 of our 7 water reclamation facilities use advanced wastewater treatment systems. We were an early adopter of Class AA biosolids, and we recently constructed Project Quench, a potable reclaimed water demonstration facility for testing, training, and education. Some of you have seen this facility. We have a forward-looking focus on solutions that provide long-term value. In recognizing the need for regional solutions, we proactively collaborated with entities DEP, the Water Management Districts, GRU, JEA, and the St. Johns County Utility Department to identify regional projects to provide the environmental benefit necessary to recover the MFL. We also aim to present the most effective and cost-efficient way for all water users to address their proportionate share of their impacts. The initial work by some of the best professionals in the state of Florida identified over 800 various project options. The rigorous analysis completed to date shows the Water First North Florida project as the best, most comprehensive approach to sustainably addressing the MFL. Over the past 2 years, the CCOA team's been very engaged with the development of the Water First North Florida project. We see this effort as central to not only addressing the environmental resource restraints, but also sustainably supporting the region's growing population and industries. Today, we offer CCOA support of the 2025 implementation strategy and addenda under consideration here today, centered on the Water First North Florida project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Rick Hutton, would you like to come up and give us a comment? Good morning.
Good morning. Wonderful to see you all this morning. Rick Hutton, Gainesville Regional Utilities. And I thought I'd have something new to say, but everything that I wanted to say has been said already. But I really want to echo a lot of the comments that have been made. We really appreciate all the hard work that you and your staff and DEP have put towards this. You know, the existing MFL was put in place in 2015, but I remember discussions on that dating back to 2010 or earlier. So not quite 1957, but I do remember 2010. And so we've been working on this for a long time. And so we're at a point now where, wow, we have a solution. And so I think we all recognize the importance of the Santa Fe and Itchitucknee rivers and springs to our area and the importance of this MFL and getting it right and having a solution. Another thing, I wanted to thank you all for all the partnership that you have done with us in supporting our reclaimed water projects at GRU and our recharge wetland projects, which, as we talked about, we're doing a project that's a little smaller version of the Water First project right now that you all and DEP have been supporting. So we really appreciate that. Through the process of this MFL development, I think we've all recognized, though, that, although, existing conservation efforts and all the work that utilities and ag are doing are very important, but to really meet the MFL, we need this regional project. And that's not really unique to our region. I know in Central Florida and South Florida, they're doing a lot of regional scale type projects too. So we're not alone in needing to do that type of project. So this is a really big step forward to have that solution, offset impacts from utilities, ag, private wells, Georgia pumping, all that being able to be resolved. And as Jeremy had talked about, we know it's an expensive project. It's going to take a while to implement. Something of this scale just takes some time to make, because we want to make sure we get it right too. But we are looking forward to continuing to work with you all and other stakeholders and getting this project across the finish line. And I know Rachel Santana is here with JEA as well. And we've got a lot of our utility folks are over at the St. John's District who is also, has the same item before them too. So we just wanted to, again, voice our support, and we really appreciate working with you all.
Thank you. We're excited about it. Any questions for Rick today? All right. None? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to
Madam
come
Chair.
up? Yep, uh-huh.
You guys aren't planning on retiring anytime soon, are you? A lot of work to do.
We do.
I've got a daughter that now says she wants to go to law school, so.
There you go.
We got you for a while.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Rick. Would anyone else like to come up and make a comment? All right, if not,
So, Madam Chair, then the recommendation would be to approve the 2025 implementation strategy for the Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers and Priority Springs, minimum flows and levels. Approve an addendum to the 2014 recovery strategy for the Lower Santa Fe and Ichetucknee Rivers and Priority Springs, minimum flows and levels, to include the water supply development, water resource development, and water conservation projects identified in the 2025 implementation strategy. And approve an addendum to the 2023 North Florida Regional Water Supply Plan to include the water supply development, water resource development, and water conservation projects identified in the 2025 implementation strategy.
Madam Chair, I make that motion.
Second.
have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. All
Thank you.
right, we've done our part.
That concludes my items.
You reckon Carlos can get this done on his side?
Hopefully so. Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Appreciate y'all being here today. And first off, let me express my appreciation for Mr. Charles' prayer and recognizing the service of our veterans. It was Veterans Day, but it is, we have a number of veterans that are here at the district that have served in the past, and we appreciate their service and certainly appreciate the service of our military members around the country with that. And also appreciate the support of the board for this non-regulatory strategy that Amy just presented. Thank you. There's been a number of comments made about it. I don't want to repeat those for the sake of time. But with that, I do want to express appreciation for utility representatives being here and their involvement over the last probably at least 3 years of development to get to where we are at today. Rick had mentioned back in 2010, and I do recall, although I was not a district employee at that time, I do recall some of these discussions early on. So it has taken a long time, but projects of this magnitude do with it, and we're still, we still got a long ways to go to get it to that point. The good thing I really like about this project is, though, in times like this, when we are in drier times, that this would be a consistent source of water, a little bit different than the Black Creek project that is temporal, and relative to the available water at that time. But this would be a consistent source of water that would be available. And along those lines, I don't remember the drought, I wasn't around for the drought of 57, Mr. Thompson, with that. But I do recall several other droughts, the one of the late 90s, and I remember particularly that year in 98, the Santa Fe had a flood on it, and then the tap turned off, and we moved into that dry period through '03 and even into '04, which in '04, we had some hurricanes that came through our area and helped bring back. So, droughts naturally occur with that. And so projects of this type help ensure that our groundwater resources, though, don't suffer to that extent during those drier time periods when we can put water back into the system with it. We have 3 workshops today, Madam Chair. We have an agricultural cost share directive discussion. And as was mentioned previously, we are looking at enhancing our water conservation for our agricultural producers with that. And certainly that has a water quality benefit as well whenever you can manage your irrigation systems. And then our 26-27 prelim budget workshop as well today. And then Lorna will be presenting on our, I'm sorry, not Lorna, April will be presenting on our outreach and operations division, an update with it. And the only other thing I would say, Madam Chair, is that we are moving into the Thanksgiving holiday, and I wish each of you a happy family Thanksgiving, time well spent with that. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Hugh today?
Madam Chair, one thing, Hugh, and this probably has as much to do with the regional directors that are here, but everybody's aware that there's a group starting in Columbia and Suwannee County, a regional group, and Shannon is new at it, and all the leadership in that is new at it. So are they staying in contact, or can you guys kind of usher them along in the right direction? Because we want all these wheels working together. Because, every dollar's going to count on this project, I guarantee it. But just wanted to mention that they are trying. I've met with Shannon, and his heart seems to be in the right place. I think they need some direction.
Madam Chair, if I may add to that, Mr. Charles, we've met with Shannon as well, and with that utility group. We've actually done some presentations to that utility group. And to me, it speaks to the collaborative and cooperative outreach effort with the utilities that are represented here today. Because I've been at meetings when both Jeremy and Rick were there and spoke to that utility group, and they've continued to provide support for Shannon.
Right.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you making that comment, and I think it's a great opportunity for the utilities in our district here to move that forward. There's a lot of work to get there, but we can get there. Madam Chair, I know Robbie had mentioned this as well. One of the items that I did want to mention is the workshop for next month. I do recall back in 2012 when the Suwannee District made a water shortage declaration. Shortly after that, 2 to 3 weeks, we had a tropical storm and hurricane that came through and alleviated that drought. Don't necessarily want to have a hurricane come through, but we thought it would be prudent to have a workshop next month to talk about some of the questions that was brought up earlier about, what's involved and at what point do we look at starting to make those type of declarations. I hope we don't get to that point with it. It's wintertime, usually a bit drier. We do get some rain off of the fronts coming through. But it's also our time of recharge if we do get sufficient rain with that. ET is lower, water use overall is lower, at least from a agricultural standpoint, with that. So we thought it would be beneficial to have a workshop next month on that. And with that, I'll conclude, Madam Chair.
Sounds good. Any other comment from the board? Questions for Hugh? All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our, board meeting.
I made that motion, Madam Chair.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carried. It's 10:30. Let's take a break and come back at 10:30. Is that enough? And we can go right into our workshop. Is that agreeable? All right, sounds good. All right, break and then back at 10:30. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are going to go into our Swanee River Water Management workshop. And do we need to call? Okay, we're just going to have a workshop. So our first item is the Ag Cost Share Directive discussion.
Good morning
Good
again,
morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board. With this workshop, what we want to do is present to you an update. This is a year since we did the last update on our agriculture cost share program, and also talk about some proposed changes that staff had looked at, kind of get a consensus from you all if it fits your vision for the cost share program, and then intend to bring an action item back to you to update the directive in December. So that's just a pretty picture, just to remind you some of the good work that we do. So looking at updating kind of what we've accomplished since the last time you saw this presentation. These are the items, irrigation items by quantity. The numbers are larger, but as far as the dispersal of the items, that looks very similar to what you saw this time last year. Same with this pie chart. This, rather than by the quantity of the items, this is by the dollars. So our total spend on this is just under 5.5 million. It's 5,424,000, with pivot retrofits and soil moisture probes holding the top slots for the most utilized technology by dollar. For precision ag, this is going to be primarily our water quality geared items. These you see, the dispersal on these by item looks very similar to what you saw last year. However, when we look at the dollars, you see a big jump in the side dressing equipment. That reflects the highboy side dressing application rigs that we saw come into adoption on farms. We bought 2 of those. Those are very expensive. They also have a very impactful water quality benefit. So this chart looks a little different. The total spend on this program is 2.6 million, 2,620,000. So kind of wanted to move into talking about our current process, how we look at these applications for cost share and evaluate them now, and then talk about some changes. So where we get our authority from you all to evaluate these applications is Governing Board Directive 25-0001. That's the most recent Ag Cost Share Directive. And then there is also Chapter 27 in our employee manual, dictates further terms and clarifies some of the directive for how staff are to implement it. Producers who apply are to own or control any parcels that they're applying for cost share on. Situations where they would control rather than own would be like a lease, and staff verify that condition exists for the parcels that they've applied for. Must have an active water use permit. You see there, if applicable. Areas where it wouldn't be applicable is like a dry land farmer who doesn't have water use on his property but still grows crop. We would still cost share for appropriate technology on their farm. They must be enrolled in FDACS's Notice of Intent for their Best Management Practices program, and be in compliance with all district permits and past contracts. The contracts must not exceed $300,000 over the last 5 years. That's a rolling 5-year time period. If it does exceed that in district funds, then it must come to you all for approval. Same with our external funding sources. Anything that exceeds $300,000 in that rolling 5-year time frame must come to you all for approval. And district employees may not apply. So when we receive an application, they're accepted year-round. We verify all the eligibility requirements we just discussed. We'll estimate the environmental benefits based on the technology that the producer has applied for, review any quotes that they've attached, and then give priority to applications based in WSPA's water supply planning areas, minimum flows, minimum water levels, basin management action plans, or outstanding Florida Springs as measured by the priority focus areas. So once we do that evaluation, staff prepares a memo summarizing the project, and we present it for approval to the appropriate people through the delegation of authority. Contracts that would be under $100,000 would go to the executive director for approval. Anything above that would come to you all for approval. And then once those memos are approved, we move forward with executing a contract with that producer. So just as a reminder, I know that's a lot of numbers and kind of small font. These are the items that we currently cost share on. 2 slides. So we have a pretty robust list. The program is intended to be, to have a lot of tools in the toolbox that producers can utilize, because as we're all aware, there really isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It's very dependent on the agricultural operation, and each one is unique. So this is getting into some of the changes staff would like to propose to you all. This is based on some feedback from DP, as well as some input from some board members. So for new contracts, for funding structure changes, should you all choose to implement what I'm presenting to you today, we would issue new contracts after the execution. So we're not going back and amending old contracts. We're just gonna let those complete under their current terms, and then issue new contracts after adoption of the proposed items, should you choose to do so. The funding cap, we're proposing to change to a flat $300,000. That's rather than $300,000 per funding source. That's not to say it can't be exceeded, but if it were to exceed $300,000, that would come back to you all for approval. We are proposing a scoring criteria that I'll go through in detail, but to be eligible to come to you all for approval and exceeding the $300,000, the application would need to score at least 75 points. And then we were proposing to maintain year-round applications. So we would receive and process applications as they come in, rather than a set application period. So for the scoring criteria, we're proposing 60 points be available based on location. So there is a base 10 points for being located in the district. We don't do projects outside the district, so that's not to say that somebody outside the district can apply and get funded. It's just a base 10 points given for being located in the district. And then an additional 10 points as you flow through the other criteria. And then 20 points for being in the North Florida Regional Water Supply Partnership. Those projects would be intended to support the minimum flow, minimum water level that you saw presented in part today. As far as, we have operations that stretch, agricultural operations that stretch across multiple of these. So we would consider whatever percentage of their property that they're applying with to be in how they would be awarded points. As far as, because we even have these, a static boundary on GIS that'll split the field. It's the intention of staff, should you choose to move forward with this, that if a field is touching a geographic boundary, then it's considered in. So we also would look at past performance. This is not something that we currently do. So currently, if a producer chooses not to move forward with a portion of their contract, that's not considered in future contracts. We're proposing to change that. This would kind of be drawing a line in the sand. So again, we wouldn't go back and look at historically what has happened, but beginning on the adoption of this for projects executed after this program, the alterations to the program, we would look at past performance, 10 total points. If a producer completed 100% of what they had proposed by item, then they would get 10 points, 5 points for doing greater than 50%, but less than 100, 0 points if they did less than 50%. And when we're saying implemented there, we're talking about not dollars, but if they say they're going to buy 10 soil moisture probes, that they bought 10 soil moisture probes. If they're able to do so and come in under budget, we certainly don't want to penalize them for that. But if they said they were going to buy 10 and only bought 5, that's where we would look at scoring them appropriately here. So the estimated cost-benefit ratio of the application would make up the bulk of the rest of the points. 30 possible points for the water quantity benefit, 20 possible points for the water quality. And that would be, we would evaluate that cost-benefit based on the entire application, so the total cost of the project that they're applying for the benefits associated with each of those district missions. So looking at specifically how that would break down, this cost is per million gallons per day, per MGD. Anything less than or equal to 375,000 would receive the full 30 points. And then on down the line, up to where you get to anything greater than 1.5 million would receive 5 points. So we staff in discussions believe that all projects are worth considering, but do want to give priority to the most cost-effective ones. Similarly with the water quantity, this is looking at, rather than MGD, this is looking at each pound of applied nitrogen reduction in the field. $2.50 per pound would receive the full 20 points, and then on down the line till you get to $10, anything greater than $10 would get the base 5. So cost share priority would be based on that score. Any project scoring greater than or equal to 75 points would be eligible for 75% cost share on their application for all their applied items. If they receive less than 75 points, they would still be eligible for cost share, but it would be at a lower rate as a secondary project. So some other changes that staff have discussed. Currently, we bundle with our cost share percentage, meaning that producers can get a higher percentage if they do certain items together. We have seen some use of that. However, we are seeing that we're getting a lot of contracts that are pretty significantly over encumbered based on, because they apply for all these items at one time, but they don't implement them all at one time, so they don't achieve the highest percentage of the bundling that they're contracted to. So we felt that it might be beneficial so that we aren't over encumbered on individual contracts to look at realigning that. And then also backing off the 90% on probes and retrofits down to 75. So we're moving all of our eligible items to 75%. Or 50% if they score less than 75 points on their application. Some new items, there's also, let me back up. There's also some items we're looking that just aren't really utilized very much. We're looking at removing them from our regular list. That's not to say that producers that want to apply for those couldn't. We do have allowances in your all's directive to do special projects. They would just have to propose it as an individual project rather than our typical application. Some new items we're looking at adding, and these would support the efforts for the Lower Santa Fe Tuckney MFL, flow meters and other equivalent monitoring for agricultural operations, and then also automated reporting, where through their remote controlling capabilities on their irrigation systems, they can have a report sent to us of that data collection. So that is all I have to present to you all. Happy to take input or questions.
I have a question. You have a question? Go ahead. Ben, explain to me how that side dressing machine works, and being that you said that we bought another one, or you've increased the funding, so, I mean, are we renting that thing out, or how's that work?
Madam Chair. So with that one in this picture, we helped University of Florida, or we purchased it, and then they have been demonstrating it.
Right.
Through those demonstrations, we have had 2 agricultural operations purchase not that exact piece of equipment, but equipment with the same capabilities that fit their operations, that allow them to side dress their corn crop
Right.
up to a higher stage. So those two operations, Shenandoah Dairy and then Jackson Family Farms. So the increase you saw, we didn't increase the funding available for that item. That was based on our spending. So we spent more on side dressing than we have previously, and the majority of that was with those two pieces of
Because we
equipment.
shared with those two groups.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then and are we getting any more, because you said you were really gaining a lot from side dressing, are we getting more interest from other farmers?
We have had one other producer make an application and then choose to withdraw it. I do think there's a lot of interest. I think they're waiting to see what the economic situation with corn is going to be before they make that capital equipment, because they're still paying 25% of that cost. So they want to make sure that the economics of that production is where it needs to be for them to make that investment.
Yes. Ben, on your cost share worksheet, can you tell me a little criteria on that?
On the worksheet,
Well, like the nitrogen load, you got a table up there.
looking at let's see. I'll get there.
There you go. The points. 250, 20 points, and then it jumps to 750. Well, how would that not be like 6 or 650, somewhere in between that and 10? Just why the weight like that on the 20 to 15?
Madam Chair. So that this discussion is exactly why we want to do the workshop. So we propose that jump based on kind of the common costs we see. We do see projects that come in at under $2.50 a pound. We don't see many. So we wanted to give them additional weight and then move down to kind of what we typically see. But all this is just what we're proposing informally at the workshop. So we could definitely adjust either the 250 up to be a higher amount, like $5, or we could adjust the next tier down to whichever you'd like to see.
Well, I like the worksheet. That's a good plan, but it's incredibly important to get the data correct on it. Because you can rely on it, but they don't have to jump 5 points. They can jump 2 or 3 points. We don't make the matrix try to fit the customer.
Mm-hmm.
We make the matrix for the benefit of the community, and they have to make theirs work. So to get the legitimate 75%, I would be cautious how we give them points. They do this a lot with economic development when they're doing tax abatement, and they score employees, payroll, all these things, and they put points on it. And that's how they say, well, we're going to give you 80%, 90%, whatever it is. But it's really important to get your sheet correct. And I think a jump like that at 5 points, that just looks to me like a long way. I don't know what they normally come in at, so I'm just looking at numbers.
Mm-hmm. So maybe instead of, we don't have to only have, 4 point
Right.
structure, so break it
Now,
down a little
You could have a
further.
17 point and a 10 pointer,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Other than that, it's a good plan. I like it. I would make sure that it's got the right valuation.
Yeah, Madam Chair. Ben, are we currently doing this scoring system today? And I guess the reason for the question is it sounds like could be an administrative burden for staff, and that could be something to watch out for.
Madam Chair. So we currently are not scoring this way. We don't score applications. They either qualify or they don't. But what this try to do is take, to keep the administrative burden manageable, take information that we're already capturing on the cost share application and then apply the scoring criteria to it. So we did actually have, and I neglected at the beginning, I get the privilege of presenting this all to you, but Jonathan and Savannah have done a lot of the background work for this, so I do want to recognize them. I did have them go through and score the applications that came to you all today, just out of interest, to see how it would look. And all 5 of those applications scored above the 75%, or of 75 points, rather.
And I guess the other kind of watch out as and I guess if most of our applications are going to score, I mean, today was what, you said 5 for 5? So maybe it's not that big of an issue. I just, you don't want to be incentivizing farming driving farming to expand in areas that are sensitive because that score is higher. So that's just a call out.
Very true, and we see sometimes when they come before us, and we look at the benefit versus the cost. Sometimes I have to call Tim or somebody, is this right? And I know it's subjective because we're having to somehow envision what the benefit is. We say it's gonna save 1,000 pounds of nitrogen. We don't know that. So I think this is a good opportunity to make something, because some of them, honestly, for the money we spend, I don't see the nutrient gain. It might be sometimes 2-3 times the amount of money for the same gain. And with your worksheet, you could make it. And do we just do 90% instead? Can we do 50% or 40%? If their score comes in at X, well, you qualify for 40%, not 75%.
Madam Chair, that however you'd like us to do that, we can do that. Some of the benefits estimation, to speak to that, on water quality, we use a calculator that was developed by the Department of Environmental Protection, and that's at their request, as the funding agency for a lot of these projects. So we're using their methodology to calculate water quality benefits, and then they're regionally monitoring those, as you're aware. Y'all get that update once a year at least, of how our monitoring network plays into that. The quantity side, that's more of our in-house estimates, and we do have methodology for that. I don't have it in this presentation, but we do have methodology for how we estimate that. And we do go back and true those up as much as possible when we actually issue payment. So our long-term tracking for that is based on what's actually implemented, not just what's applied for. I don't know if that speaks to everything but that part of it anyway.
Yeah. We got time. We'll work with that. I think it's a good thought. And a lot of times when we're implementing something new like the soil moisture probes and stuff, a few years ago, that was new science. And I see doing a greater cost share when we want something tried in different geographical areas. And but then when we see, okay, the benefit, then we don't have to be quite as generous. This is something that's proven it's good for the farm. They need to get on board. We need data and information to begin with, but we can bring that back down after we know that this will yield X.
Madam Chair. I find myself in agreement with that comment. I mean, these programs have been very successful driving practices that, we mentioned it earlier, the capture of the water savings per dollar spent, they're far less than some of the bigger projects that we're just talking about today. That said, though, just what Mr. Charles was saying, I mean, the soil moisture probes are probably a great example. We had a lot of cost share on that in the beginning to drive the adoption. The adoption of that technology directly reduces the amount of water pumped because now the farmers have the ability to measure, do we have adequate moisture where the plants need it, and we're not overwatering. 2, it's keeping the nutrients in the root zone where the plants have an opportunity to take it up instead of it slipping through and falling to the aquifer. So the producers have experienced watering less, saving all that pumping, fertilizing less because we're not over applying as much fertilizer and we're more aware of it. And so it's been very successful in that regard. But I think I'm with you. I wonder if part of this whole strategy, you can still have that be a criteria if they use soil moisture probes. But maybe we don't, if we're trying to spread this money around and be effective, we start thinking, well, what do we want to drive next? And we get a credit for continuing to utilize previous technologies that we have supported. I'd like to see us move in that direction, just to keep moving that ball forward.
And as these rules change, you're gonna get inundated with requests. Everybody's gonna be looking for a way, and we can't fund it all.
And I called out the administrative hassle for our staff, but the same thing happens for these producers. Well, most of these farmers don't have tremendous staff and overhead sitting around to run a bunch of calculations to try to figure out how to best do this. We kind of need to make it easy for them to adopt these technologies.
I'm sure. I got one quick question. Ben, are we currently, if a producer is eligible based on his criteria that you currently have, are we funding 100% of those now?
Madam Chair? Yes, sir. We're funding 100% of the project. It's still a cost share.
Right.
But we're funding any applications we receive that qualify.
So you're looking to change your strategy or the way you score it in the anticipation of having more applications than you have funding for? Would that be correct?
Madam Chair, we could potentially get in that situation, and this would help us prioritize. I will say, we're always looking for additional funding to help meet the need here. But it could help with that, help us prioritize projects.
Okay, I've got one. We're trying to train our farmers or get them to implement and adopt the new technologies and train them up on conservation and water quality. And we have many farmers that have been they're on the wagon and they've been doing this for a number of years, and we've been cost sharing to get, more of these technologies out in the field. Is there a possibility of doing a line item for first-time applicants or young farmers that give them, some points to help get new farmers or young farmers started in this technology? And we've got ones that already know it saves them money on water and it's on pumping, and it saves them money on fertilizer. But I was just thinking it might be nice to have some points for new applicants and young farmers coming into this and get them trained up as also.
Yes, ma'am, we could definitely do that. We actually discussed that. Didn't make it into the final draft, but we have some ideas on that. So it would be pretty easy for us to add back in as a line item.
Okay.
And it's still it's information we have in-house. What we've talked about is basing it on previous participation in the program. So that's pretty easy for us to verify if they've participated or not.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, could I raise a question? And I'm just looking for clarification on this. But relative to the comments that Mr. Charles and Mr. Lloyd have made, So that I understand it correctly, and I'll just use, let's say soil moisture probes, for example. We have a producer that comes in, applies for soil moisture probes, applies for 10 soil probes. They get approved, they get funded. And then they realize the benefit of that technology on it. Let's say they add additional acreage to grow their operation, and they want to utilize that same technology. They want soil probes on that new acreage. Was a idea that, okay, we cost shared at 90% for those initial soil probes. For this next round of 8 probes, then that they come in and apply for, we would cost share at a reduced amount, and I'm just pulling this out of there, 50% or something like that? Was that the thought, or was something
I think
different?
that's very much on course, because just the fact that they're expanding their operation in a time that we're trying to find water, when they expand, we have to do more permitting for that expansion on top of that. And then to support I think at some point, we have to take on more of the responsibility than 10%.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I guess to clarify where I'm coming from on that was more broadly speaking of our percentage of cost share for these different items. Not trying to slice and dice it up a lot, make it more overly complicated. But if, we have items that are widely adopted and are becoming common practice, maybe we move some of the cost share down, that frees up some dollars now for whatever the next thing might be that we want to, behavior we might want to drive with these farmers.
My concern on that is, if I'm over here farming and I'm not using best management practices, and we've got one of our best management practices that comes to our cost share, and they utilize all of this to be better, and they expand their operation by buying my farm, we don't want to be punishing them for trying to use best management practices on land where it's not being used. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying?
I believe I do on that, Mr. Harry.
I mean, so.
That's why we're having the workshop.
If they applied for all their soil probes and they got X percentage, and then they're expanding their operation by by buying another farm who could have taken in these benefits, they didn't do it. Let's not punish them for trying to take producer acreage and doing something better with it.
Right.
I mean, that's the goal, right? If we had every farm using all best management practices, that's our ultimate goal.
So your thought is that, let's just say I have an additional application for 10 probes, I get approved for it on 1,000 acres. I add an additional 800 acres I pick up where that technology has not been used. And I make application to the district for cost share on that additional 800 acres utilizing soil moisture probes. Then.
I just don't want to discourage them from not doing that.
Right.
So
So
if you're dropping your percentage,
we go from 90% to 50%, like
yeah,
I
you want to
mentioned.
be careful. I mean, we want them to do the right thing, do we not?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So we don't want to do anything to discourage that. I get if there's a return and gain, and we need to get the ball going in the directions where the best technology and the best, because I agree with Charles 100%. You look at some of these things, and we're spending insane amounts of money to get a nitrogen load that wouldn't fill that cup of water I got, reduced off the field. You shake your head. You walk out going, we're just throwing money at a problem to be throwing money. We all get that. But what we do know we have, and they are seeing a gain, we kind of want to snowball that effect too. We don't necessarily want to say, okay, we got this that we know is working, soil moisture probes. Let's don't go punish them,
Right.
for doing it. There is a
Well, I
cost
don't
there.
think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were through with that statement. Go ahead.
I'm done.
Well, I think the point, or the way I take it is, we don't want to disincentivize them using it, but if there's a cost benefit to the producer for using the soil moisture probes, we have introduced it to them by basically giving it to them. 90% is pretty darn good cost share. If we've done that and proven that they can save money doing so, and the word is out in the community that, hey, you can save X number of dollars a year in water and maybe fertilization, then the producer needs to be buying it, in my opinion. I mean.
How much are they saving?
On soil moisture probes, it's.
No. How much are they saving?
From a water use standpoint?
What is the financial benefit to the farmer? We're up here saying that they're benefiting financially, right? But I have not heard that number.
Madam Chair.
I agree with you, Larry. But tell me the number. What is the farmer saving per acre by using these?
Well, I was merely taking Will's comment that there was benefit.
I mean,
Substantial benefit, I think is the word
my
he
point
used.
is, let's make sure we don't disincentivize. We need to know what that number is. Those are the numbers we need to see before we just, we're making assumptions here.
Right. Oh, no, I fully understand with that, and I believe, Ben, you correct me if I'm wrong, you're Jonathan, Savannah, but I believe the university has done some work on the economics of implementing.
And we went and saw this beautiful, we went and saw this beautiful thing over at Oxford. That was fantastic, that day over there, right? You know, and the blue dye test.
Oh, yes, sir.
And all of that, and those are wonderful things. And we hear about this being done on the farms. Re-upping and using some of these same practices versus that started the initial test, you know. There's more. We need to know what we're getting into.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this workshop, is to have this discussion and see where we needed additional information for some of this.
Yeah, I get tired of throwing money at I mean, we find ourselves in here making decisions and we're throwing a lot of money at things we're not seeing results. And fair enough, Mr. Key.
Absolutely.
And I'm wholeheartedly with you. But when we do have something that is working, let's be careful not to, and we all believe soil moisture probes are, let's be careful of where we're choosing to pull back on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what percentage of people and producers in our district are taking advantage of our cost share program?
Madam Chair. So I don't know about producers. As far as irrigated acreage, we're at around, we were at around 60%.
It's not bad. That's the right way to look at it, I think. I mean, if you're going to have an impact on our natural resources, it's the acreage, right? So, I mean, that's a key point. I think Mr. Smith is making that as well. If you have a farm that's able to expand, it could be new ground. It could be buying a neighbor's farm. It could be that acres are, as long as we're impacting those acres, I think it's a very good measurement. And back to the soil moisture probes, I mean, I was never up here saying we should go to 0 on soil moisture probes because they're adopted. If we're at 90% today and we're trying to be good stewards of the dollars that we have, put them to the best use, some of these practices, do we just back them down just a little bit? Do we go to 75%? And that'll freeze up some more dollars to now bring more acres into the program without jeopardizing the use of the tool that is really working out there that we have good benefit from.
I think it'd be great to have the economics when someone's coming in for an application. If it's kind of proven where you're gonna save, $1,000 in fertilizer each year and $500 in pumping each year, that's $1,500 a year. And the probe lasts, 5 years, and then they can do the calculation to see that they're gonna, pay for that probe in the first 2 years or 2.5 years, and then they can see the economic benefit. I'd love to know what it is, because I know we keep saying it saves money. Makes sense, you don't have to pump, and you're saving fertilizer, which is awful. And it'd be, if UF's got that economic graph, then it'd be good to show our farmers, this is what you're gonna save in money.
That and the economics going to change greatly in the future. There's going to be things happen. The rules are going to change. And you're going to either have to be very conservative with the water use, or you're just not going to get the water. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's not an endless flow of water. At some point, the rule changes. You may see meters on wells someday. Big economic change. If I can get by with, 3/4 of the water I've been using, possible. I don't know that anybody's thinking that right now, but future economics could be very, very beneficial to the farmer.
One thing that we have to watch ourselves out for, and I appreciate this workshop, is we are charged to manage the state's water resources in our district. And part of that is we wanted to introduce farmers to soil moisture probes and a whole bunch of other stuff through providing cost shares. But what we've done, in good, bad, or indifferent, and I'd like to see some benefit analysis versus what we've been spending, is we've gotten a whole class of, a whole industry, if you would, that uses our resource, dependent on us coming to the table to help them buy new technology. Whereas I look at what I'm used to in my industry, I don't have because I'm not using a water resource, I don't have another entity, a state entity coming in here and saying, hey, I want you to transition because we got people cutting themselves with chainsaws. I want you to transition from running a chainsaw to being mechanized, fully mechanized. And they can look at you and say, well, I'm going to save you on your insurance rates, and I'm going to save you on men getting cut with a chainsaw, and I'm going to actually help you buy logging equipment that doesn't have chainsaws anymore. Well, I mean, the easy thing to do is that, sign me up, and, but now we've got the quantifiable data. We've been doing this long enough, and I'd say where I've been for 10 years, we've been doing it long enough to give a farmer quantifiable data and say, you know just as well as I do, every time you crank your pivot up, what it costs you. If I can, and side dressing corn, same thing. They know what it costs to run that equipment. They can retrofit their existing equipment to side dress with at younger stages. They know that. They've said that in these meetings. All that being said is if we continue to give them a check of 75% or 80% to use all this equipment, they'd be fools not to take the money. But no other industry do we do that for. And what we're doing is it's the same detrimental effect is they start building business plans and everything else based on taxpayer money. Now, is that right? Well, in the big picture, yeah, we're saving water. In the big picture, yeah, we're not putting nitrate in the ground. That's good for all of our citizens. We have to cost weigh out what those taxpayer money is versus the benefits. But we also have to understand what taxpayer money's doing. In another big picture, we got 42 million Americans today on SNAP benefits that were panicking last week because they weren't getting them. 42 million people? Now, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying we got to watch what we're doing here, and we have to analyze where we're getting the most bang for our buck. Also, our soil moisture probes are the way to go. And I know we don't want to disincentivize a guy not to use them, but it's an economic benefit because believe me, all the investment that we've done in our industry to mechanize have given us the economic benefit, not just in lower insurance rates and not just people not getting cut with chainsaws and everything else, but the productivity has gone up. That's what benefited it. We fully mechanized now. We don't have people out there sawing with chainsaws in the state of Florida anymore. And it was a natural, economic-driven system. It's pure, it is bona fide capitalism. And what we're doing is we're subsidizing farming. Now, the incentive is to get them to do it our way. But at what cost? At what benefit?
There's a lot of extra money and even cost share put into a Water First program.
There you go.
Benefits the whole state, not just a class of business.
And now, don't get me wrong. I know we got to eat. I know we got to save water. I know we got to stop putting nitrate in the ground. I get that. We want to incentivize that. And I think we've done a great job. I mean, because, Ben, I tell you another thing I'd like to know is over the whole cost share program, how much money have we spent? Because we give this guy $300,000, we give this guy $300,000, I approve of $1.2 million over here, I approve this one over here, I approve that one over there, and I'm not saying I'm not gonna approve it. How much money have we spent to prop up an industry, to do what, to incentivize them to do the right thing? Because whoever's not operating with BMPs is not just doing it the wrong way, but they're actually violating the law. Because everybody's industry's got to be operating under BMPs. According to DEP, it's in the statutes. Who's not doing it? They don't need to be operating. Think about that, guys. That's just maybe I'm just an ultra right-wing conservative guy. I don't know. But I sure hate subsidizing the industry. Not when it's benefiting them, because I guarantee you this right here, the money they're saving, they ain't saying, hey, you know what? I took $300,000 from the taxpayers, I'm gonna give that back. Ain't nobody talking about that, are they? No, they're living in nice houses. Go to South Georgia and look at farmers' houses. Now, I mean, you know, I don't begrudge anybody living in a nice house. But I don't want to pay for it. I'm trying to build my own house. I'm sorry I'm sorry to say the obvious thing, but I mean, I just can't stand it no more. I had to say something.
And you can believe the legislature's gonna be looking for money to fund these.
$1 billion project. Excuse me, $2 million to study it. I have a problem with that. Dr. Brown, I got a problem with that. I know we got to budget some money, but $2 million?
Ben, it's gonna be a tough year to come pulling back on a farmer, you know that, right? You know what they're facing right now, right?
But I'm going to tell you something.
I understand that.
We all facing it.
But it's a trying time.
For everybody.
Well, I think we've run down a rabbit hole there, but I don't think the intent was ever to discontinue the cost sharing program. It was just to maybe shift the incentive into some other areas that maybe we want to drive them to save, that would save additional resources. You know, the soil moisture probes have proven to be an advantage to the producer. And if it is, I think there's a give and take there, that they would be willing to continue using them at maybe a 50 or 75% cost share opposed to 90. But if we took those dollars and diverted them to another cost share program, then that would benefit us as a district, then I think that's what we should do. But as far as totally cutting them off, I don't think that's going to benefit anybody here. I mean, it might benefit this taxpayer in the long run, but the water quality and the water quantity is going to reduce. We're eliminating our goal of saving water and improving the quality of the water.
Yeah, there's definitely a certain point where it's a trade-off. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing it just to subsidize, to make farmers wealthy. We're doing it to save our water.
No, nothing else from me. I appreciate the input. We'll do our best to incorporate it and bring it back to you all for consideration.
Good discussion, board. I'm always proud of y'all. Good ideas. Any other comment on this particular item? All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Ben. Guess we're ready for our preliminary budget. Yep.
It's still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board. Purpose of today's workshop is to discuss the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 preliminary budget, which is currently $70,411,214. As you all may notice, this is approximately a $13.2 million decrease from the current fiscal year 2026 adopted budget of $83,629,325. That is mostly related to a decrease in anticipated funding for new projects. Last year, our budget was increased significantly as we added in some anticipated funding sources for some of these new projects coming down the way. Based on guidance with DEP, we have backed off of that a little bit, and the decision has been made if additional funding does come our way, we could do a budget amendment at that time to receive those funds. Before we dive into the budget changes, I'd like to take a moment to briefly go over the fiscal year 27 budget timeline. Following today's workshop, we will present the preliminary budget to you for approval next month at the December board. It'll subsequently be submitted to the legislature for review by January 15th of 2026. Following a brief recess, we will come back before you following the June board for a workshop to present the tentative budget, which will be approved by you at the July board and submitted to legislature August 1st. We will hold our first and final public hearings on September 8th and September 21st respectively, and we will kick off the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 budget year on October 1st, 2026. Let's get started. This slide depicts the source of funds for the preliminary budget. We will dive deeper into the assumptions associated with these sources in the coming slides, but high level, we have approximately $3.8 million in federal funding, another $44.6 million in state funding, $9.7 million in district funds, as well as $12.3 million in fund balance utilization. The $3.8 million in federal revenues consist of approximately $3.6 million in funding from FEMA for flood risk mapping and disaster recovery, as well as an additional $200,000 in federal grants related to groundwater monitoring. And state revenues are $44.6 million. This does include $6.5 million in recurring state appropriations, for which the district is appreciative of the continued support of the legislature, as well as an additional $3 million for a legislative budget request that is related to agricultural cost share expansion and ag monitoring. We also have $35 million in projects, $23.1 million of which are current ongoing projects, and $12 million in anticipated new projects. That $12 million in anticipated new projects is down from $25.2 million that was presented on the current fiscal year 26 budget. So that's where that reduction comes into play. District revenues of $9.7 million include $7.3 million in ad valorem revenue. This figure is a placeholder that is equal to the current fiscal year 2026 adopted budget. This amount will be adjusted in the tentative budget once property values are received from the various property appraisers through the truth and millage process. The remaining 2.4 million consist of other district revenue sources such as timber, the sale of surplus property, permitting fees, and investment income. In addition, we have 12.3 million in fund balance utilization, of which we have just over 2 million for river cost share, just over 1 million for agricultural cost share, 2.4 million in land and conservation acquisitions, 1.3 million in regional projects, as well as 5.5 million in other areas, including the general fund, land management, project metrics, and prior operational transfers. All right, this slide depicts a side-by-side visual comparison of expenditures by type. As previously mentioned, the 70.4 million fiscal year 27 preliminary budget is approximately a 13.2 million decrease from the current fiscal year 26 adopted budget of approximately 83.6 million. As we can see, the most significant decreases are in interagency in orange from 27 million to 18 million, as well as contracted services in red, reducing from 33 to 29 million. Reductions are 8.6 million and 3.5 million respectively, and these decreases are related mostly to the reduction in anticipated projects. There was also a decrease in fixed capital outlay in Thank you, Tyler. And the fixed capital outlay in light blue experienced a reduction of approximately 1.5 million, and that is mostly related to progress on the facilities refurbishments. These decreases were partially offset by slight increases in salaries and benefits in darker blue of approximately 356,000 and operating capital outlay in purple of approximately 24,000. While there has been change within the expenditure types, the expenditure type as a percentage of the overall budget has remained fairly consistent. And this next slide presents a comparison of expenditures by program. As we could see, our largest expenditure is in the acquisition, restoration, and public works in orange at 45.2 million or 64% of the overall budget. This program did decrease by 12 million. Again, that is mostly related to the reduction in anticipated projects discussed previously. The next largest areas of expenditure are in the water resource planning and monitoring in the blue color, and the operation and maintenance of lands and works in gray. As discussed in the previous slide, the 1.35 million decrease in operation and maintenance of lands and works is related to progress on facilities refurbishments. Then we have regulation in yellow at 2.7 million, administration in green at just under 2.1 million or less than 3% of the overall budget. And we have outreach in dark purple at approximately 287,000. Again, while program expenditures have changed, their percentages relative to the overall budget have remained fairly consistent. And then with that, we'll take any questions.
Madam Chair, are there any of those categories that we're required to stay under a certain number? I'll just use the.
Yeah, outreach.
No, that was.
Yeah, it's required to stay under 300,000.
Madam Chair?
Well, management and admin seems to be a relatively manageable number at what, 2.9%, but does that number have to be under a certain number?
Madam Chair? Legislatively, the combination of Program 5 and Program 6, Outreach and Management and Administration combined have to remain below 15% of the overall budget
15?
for the two program areas combined. And we are currently at 0.41% for outreach and 2.96% for management and administration. So just over 3%, which does seem a little bit on the low side. But again, these are for budgeted expenditures, not actuals. Our actuals typically run somewhere along 7%.
It looks good to me. I mean, I've been associated with organizations that fight that 10% number, and higher. But
She'll be able to get by without that 4,000.
Can you go back kind of toward the beginning, and it had line items of, let's see, yep, nope, back one more, yep. These are our fund balances, cost shares, and I'm sitting here looking at, we have most of our district is in ag, and I'm sitting here looking at, it's the one with the least amount in cost share. And I know we have certain buckets that we get money out of for certain things, and we can't cross them or anything like that. When we start looking at our metrics for ag cost share, this is a little bit more information. I'm sitting here looking at, obviously, regional projects are very good. And I know that land acquisitions comes from a different pot, and river cost share. But this puts a little bit of a different light on our ag cost shares too, because it's the least amount that's out there.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's my understanding this is just carryover fund balances. This isn't the budget. This is just the numbers so it's low because we spent most of our money in
Okay.
ag cost share. Is that not correct?
Madam Chair?
That's only money is left.
This is 1 million that is in our district's ag cost share for fund balance, which the district has committed. We also receive state funding sources for agricultural cost share as well.
Okay.
So this does not depict total expenditures for agricultural cost
Okay,
share.
thank you. Any other questions? Nope. No more comments on pie color? All right. Thank you very much.
Nobody listens to me anyway.
All righty. Outreach.
Now y'all in for it.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Again, the Division of Outreach and Operations, we're very excited to showcase some of our, what we consider our best accomplishments for fiscal year 2025 and highlight for you our key focus initiatives for FY 2026, which, as you know, October 1st, we currently started. You're going to be hearing from 4 different folks in our division that are very important to the work that we do in the Division of Outreach and Operations. I will say that we have additional staff that make the world go round as it relates to our different programs. So they are not here, but they are represented largely by their supervisors. You're going to hear first from Troy Roberts, who you're very well acquainted with. After that, you're going to hear from, is it April's next? April Olive. April and I work together in the land acquisition and surplus program, so this will be the first time you're seeing her, so be nice to her at the podium. After that, you'll hear from Lorna Radcliffe with Land Management. Again, you are familiar with Lorna. She's our Land Management Chief. And then to round us out at the end is Vince Robinson in our Hydrologic Data Collections Program, which a lot of the data that him and his team gather, you hear Robbie present. So he's out in the field collecting it, and then Robbie and his team are helping QA QA, QC it, and then report it out. So we're excited to showcase this information to y'all today, and we will get started with Troy.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and I can say good morning. I did not expect to when we did the run-through. I was saying good afternoon. So, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Always a pleasure to be in front of you and highlight some of the accomplishments of the Communications and Outreach Office. And I also want to say thank you. You guys have been very supportive of our efforts over my 4 years here, and so I am always thankful of that. So obviously, 2025 was a busy year for us. I think we made a lot of headway in educating the public about what it is that we do here at the district. And that started off with our 2025 district calendar. I know all of you have received copies of that. We ordered enough copies, and you're always curious about how it's going to be received. And I'm thankful to say that we gave away every single one of them, and we've had even more requests for more of them, even as late as June and July, that people were still wanting copies of it. So that was a very, very successful outreach effort. Looking at some of our additional accomplishments this year, we still believe that press releases are a valuable part of what we do here. We issued 46 of those that highlighted district activities. In terms of face-to-face type presentations, we did 27 of those throughout the years, whether it was to students, civic organizations, other groups, basically anybody who invited us to come and speak and let us tell them about what the district does and how important our work is. We were there. We look forward to continuing that this year as well, and we have several of those on the books for January and February. Banner year for social media across our 3 platforms. We had 1.7 million views during our fiscal year, and this is, as far as I can tell, the most that we've ever had. What's even more important about that is 1.6 million of those were gained organically, which means that they were seen by people just through the posted. They weren't paid ads. We didn't have to spend any money for that visibility. That was people commenting and sharing and liking the stuff that we're putting out there. So, more than 90-something% of that was seen organically. Additionally, we also had an 80% increase in content interactions, which is pretty significant, that people are not just seeing our posts, but they are actually taking part in our posts and interacting with them as well. So some more of our accomplishments this year. You see across the top, it says, "Welcome to Suwannee Springs." We worked with land management to perform a new design on some of our welcome signage for some of our premier lands. And so one of the options that you see is right there. We plan on working with them throughout the year to put some new welcome signage out there. We like to create a great first impression to visitors of our district lands. Beautiful signage is a great way to make sure that they understand that those lands are well maintained, and they're going to have an enjoyable experience while we're there. We also updated our permit to protect information, working with the Resource Management Office. You see 2 of the graphics there for both wetlands and floating docks. We will be utilizing that in the coming months, and you'll hear more about that shortly. Additionally, we updated some of our feature stories. We like telling the good news about what we do here at the district and highlighting what our individual offices are doing. So you see 2 of those stories there, one on flood risk awareness, one on project development. We also completed 2 additional ones. One of our biggest accomplishments, I think, is we updated our Leave No Litter campaign materials this year. We updated those early in the fiscal year, and then did a campaign from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And so we used YouTube. We worked with TV20 down in Gainesville, and also Spotify. And you see the numbers that we had there: 250,000 views on YouTube, 263,000 impressions on TV20, and another 139,000 impressions on Spotify. People heard and saw this material this year. It's very important that they understand how harmful litter can be. And while I wish we didn't have to spend money telling people what they should already know, which is don't leave your trash wherever you are, we do. But thankfully, people are hearing this message and seeing these great campaign materials that we've put together. We also updated some of our district lands photography this past year. This is phase 1 of this. We like to make sure that we have beautiful photos of all of the district lands that we have. And so between that and updating both our district lands web map and our online SUA portal, We've had both of those in effect for a couple of years now. There were some changes that had been requested through both the user experience and staff to make those more accessible. So we completed those this year and hope that both of those will continue to be used by residents and visitors to our area. Looking at some of our key focus initiatives for the coming year, you guys heard a lot about Water First North Florida and water conservation efforts this morning from Dr. Brown. Obviously, we want to complement that as best we can and help with the outreach on those projects, help people to understand what exactly Water First North Florida is and how water conservation is important to ensuring that we have water supply, not just today, but in the future. So we're going to be tailoring some campaigns and educational outreach efforts to our residents regarding those two. I mentioned Permit to Protect. We've did a lot of those materials this past year. We're going to be utilizing those in a campaign to help educate people about the permitting process and exactly what that entails. Working with Caitlin and April on land acquisition and land surplus, we're going to help them again, promote that program, help our residents understand what exactly goes into both of those areas. Phase 2 of our district lands photography will be on the docket this year, as well as highlighting flood risk awareness as we continue to do the FEMA flood maps and, assist in those as best we can. And I mentioned the 2025 district calendar because it was so well received. We will be doing that again this year, and you guys will be some of the first to see the cover, which I thought y'all might enjoy. That is a beautiful photo from Rock Bluff. And so that'll be our cover photo. My goal is to have copies of those to each of you by the board meeting next month, so you guys can start filling out your calendars and getting everything scheduled. And nothing else, at least getting the governing board meetings on schedule. So before I turn it over to April for the next thing, if y'all have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Troy, I have the calendar up in my house, and I have one of these pictures over my fireplace. And from time to time, when I have guests over, it sparks the question of how can they get these pictures? Does the public have general access to get these photos?
Madam Chair. Typically not. Like with these photos, we have worked with local photographers. I mean, all of these are submitted by residents of our area. We put out a call to action, say, hey, if you have photos, please submit them. We got 200 and something this year, which much more than we received the previous year, which is great, but that requires us to go through every single photo and then call the list and all that stuff. So we could, if there's a specific one they're interested in, I mean, I could always try to get them with a photographer. If it's one I took, they can have it for free. So, but if they ever see something like that, or you ever have communication with somebody that has questions like that,
Tell them to call you.
Yes, sir. I'll take care of them. Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. My name is April Olive, and I work with Caitlin Potter in the Land Acquisition and Surplus Program. 2025 has been an exciting and busy year for us. Listed are recent and noteworthy accomplishments. For land acquisition, we conserved over 900 acres in a conservation easement in Gilchrist County. We completed the declaration of 9 parcels for surplus. Of those 9 parcels, 2 are closed, 2 are closing in November, and 2 are pending board approval in December. We conveyed 3 properties, 1 to the city of Newberry, 1 to Columbia County, and 1 to Lafayette County, with a road and boat ramp pending in Suwannee County. We completed 3 conservation easement amendments and 2 deed corrections. We completed 7 access or utility easements, and we have 1 pending or an ongoing access easement. We have completed 7 permissive use agreements to gain access for land management activities, MFLs, or to provide access for monitoring sites by our HDS staff. Highlighted here are some of our most noteworthy accomplishments. We worked in 2025 to improve and streamline the land acquisition and surplus program. We accomplished a complete and compliant process for the ranking and funding of acquisition projects to ensure that weight was given to projects fairly and consistently. We revised multiple directives and rewrote the land acquisition and surplus procedure. And most importantly, we achieved a clean audit. Our key focus initiatives for fiscal year 2026 are highlighted here. We intend to gain access for priority sites, primarily for timber sales, monitoring, and projects. We plan to complete a district-wide assessment of potential surplus properties, primarily river lots or isolated areas, 5 acres or less. We have completed Region 1 and are working to identify the best and most efficient way to bring these to the board without overwhelming staff time. In Region 1 alone, we found 95 river lots that would meet the surplus criteria. Our goal is to move at least 10 surplus properties. This will be a stretch, but we hope to accomplish this through real estate services. We aim to move the properties off of the existing surplus list. We hope to accomplish this through real estate broker services, and the district used these services historically and was successful. We currently are drafting a bid for real estate services. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we are looking ahead, and we are working towards a productive year in 2026.
Thank you, April. Any
Thank you.
questions for April? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Still morning, isn't it?
It is.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. The land management team has been busy. We kicked the year off, as you might remember, with Hurricane Helene. It took us several months, a couple months, to recover, get our roads open back up, and our lands back under management operations. We also worked throughout the year updating our district land management plan and bringing it to you for review and approval. We also worked on our land acquisition and land management audit, which, as April already mentioned, we had no findings. And then we had our land management review, which we do annually. And Mr. Thompson was able to attend, and we always appreciate that support. Of our 50,000 core acres, we was able to conduct 11,687 acres of vegetative management. We harvested over 3,000 acres of timber for $2.1 million in revenue, which most of that was salvage timber sales from the hurricanes. We also reforested 293 acres, and we have many to go in the next couple years. We also conducted 130 miles of road maintenance, replacing 14 culverts, and we issued 650 special use authorizations to the public for use of our lands. We monitored rare species on over 2,300 acres, treated invasive exotics on over 150 acres, and continued to monitor the treatment on Edwards bottomlands and on Stark bypass mitigation area. We also had some notable tract improvements. On Telford Springs, we was able to increase our parking area to get the public off of our county road. And also, we were able to increase our parking lot area at Owen Springs and remove the water lettuce through treatment. So the spring looks very beautiful if you haven't seen it. We also worked on our Blue Sink canoe launch, which had a lot of sediment after the hurricanes. There was flooding, and when we actually started removing all the sediment, we also found some blocks that had fallen. So replacing those blocks into the wall, and it was a lot of work, but it's back open, and the public is very happy about that. Some of our key focus initiatives for '26, besides our routine management operations, is that we meet monthly as a team and discuss continuous improvement. We have regionalized our operations, so instead of being program-centric, we are actually going to be operating by region. We also are going to be innovating with technology to be more productive as far as routine task planning, reporting, and so forth. We also are looking at strategic timber harvest planning. And we also have been assessing all of our lands, and we're looking at expanding our public hunt opportunities in '26. So you'll see that coming before you in the next couple months. And probably our most noteworthy achievement is we did beat the hydrologic team this year in tug of war.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I want to do a brief overview of our year in the Hydrologic Data Services Department. So let's get started. Okay, as you see on this slide right here, this is where we monitor and what we monitor. We monitor the water levels, rainfall, stream flow, and agricultural flows in our district. We have the district broken down into 6 technician zones, and each of us have a zone, including myself. That's what we see here. This slide here is the Wassissa River. We have just took this over in October, doing flow measurements here. Basically, what is happening in this slide here is they're actually taking the vegetation that's in the cross section. They're actually out there removing it with rakes at this time, and that has to be done every time you do a flow, before you do the flow, and it's usually takes a pretty good while. So it takes about 3 technicians, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to go in there and clean it out, so you can get a good flow measurement there. And once the vegetation and stuff has been removed from the cross section, then we're able to do the flow measurement there with the ADCP, and that usually takes anywhere from 2 to 3 hours as well, so to get it done. So it's an all-day trip out there, but it's a beautiful place to work, though. I will say, one of my favorites in the district. Here we have right now we have 47 active rainfall stations in our district. We go out there 3 times a year. Every time we go, we clean them. 1 time a year, we have to calibrate these units. This also, in this slide right here, this is the actual, where we just saw the Wassissa earlier. This is the actual station, which you couldn't see in that slide. This is the actual station where the cross-section is, and flow measurement is taking place at. We have these surface water, we have 60 active surface water sites. We have to go to these sites 3 times a year, at least, not including the flow measurements, because the flow measurement at Wassissa is a once-a-month site now. We have 257 active groundwater monitoring sites. We have to go to these sites 3 times a year as well. It adds up. We have 313 active ag telemetry sites. We go there twice a year. And these are all minimal, that we have to go there. We end up going there quite a bit more when things are broken and batteries go down, or, just equipment failure in general. We have 712 active electrical monitoring sites. These sites do not require us to go out to them. So that's good. That saves them a lot of equipment, saves them a lot of time, and going out there to get to get this data. In the last 3 years, we've had 337 agricultural flow measurements that have been taken. That's both in-house and contractors.
combined. I did some numbers on that. I guess if we just do all of our minimal site visits, if you combine what we just looked at, we have the minimum number of site visits for our technicians during the year is 1,718. And it breaks down to about 286 site visits per tech per year, and that's just a minimum amount of trips. Usually we do a lot more than that, when things break, to fix things as well. That's just the numbers, kind of gives you what we're going out doing. But basically, this year's focus and this year's initiative will be private well relocation. This is important. We have several historic wells that are, we use that data from that are privately owned. And some of that, it's not good because sometimes you have access issues. And another thing is too, it's hard to get continuous data on some of these because they're residential wells, so you can't put any kind of equipment down in their wells, so you have to go there once a month and do a tape down. And like I say, access issues cause troubles with that as well. So any of them that we can move to, district-owned lands or public-owned lands would be better for getting data and keeping it going. Also, we're focused on vertical surveys for a lot of our stations that don't have them yet. That helps in the long run. That's what we do as data. So we want to get the most accurate data we can have available for everyone. Also, too, we've been working a lot on the low water flows right now since we haven't had rain in a long time. Some of our systems are low as they've been in a while, so it's good to get the flows done right now. So you have that to compare, the data to compare. So that's what we're working on that as well. And also, the ag flows is always important, trying to get those done. This past year, we've been working a lot on trying to clean up a lot of our agricultural stuff as well. Just making it to where, you get redundant sites and things that just need to be cleaned up from the past. So, that's important. So that's what we've been focusing on. Also changing out a lot of our equipment that is older equipment. We've been putting new equipment in, so make it more reliable, make the data better that's coming in. So, and we'd like to thank Caitlin too as well. She's been doing a lot of work on the agricultural side for us. So she spends a lot of time doing that. But let's see. I guess that's about it. Do y'all have any questions or anything?
Any questions from the board?
You said that Caitlin's been helping you on the agriculture
Yes,
side.
sir.
Have you had her in any of those hip waders yet? And
No, sir, she hadn't done any
it'd
waders.
probably be important where she could experience what you guys go through.
Oh, yeah.
That way she can be an effective leader.
That's right.
Just kind of put some time in the trenches.
Yeah, she's a good leader. She's been going through that agriculture. We've been cleaning that up.
That's at the office, though. I'm talking about getting out there in the woods.
In the woods.
Yeah.
She's been out in the woods
Yeah.
a couple times for sure. She gets out, but she's been doing a lot of work, and we appreciate what she does. But we appreciate y'all too, the work y'all do as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I got one
Y'all doing
question
great.
for you. On the rainfall equipment,
Uh-huh.
does it transmit, at rainfall, it transmits back?
Yes,
So you don't
ma'am.
have to come out there and,
No, ma'am.
it's good.
It does, it comes in every day, yes, ma'am.
That's nice. Okay, thank you.
The only bad thing about them, they use them for target practice a lot at Mallory Swamp.
Oh, nice.
Is that on the Lafayette or the Dixie County side? Okay, all right. Probably the Dixie County side. Dixie.
Madam Chair, Board, thank you for, I know this was the third presentation, and I appreciate y'all hanging in and letting us showcase things that we think are important to the district and are certainly important to the long-term mission of the district. And I can't thank the staff enough for all of their work and the board's support, because we certainly couldn't do it without y'all's support, and we feel very, very supported by the board.
Y'all do a great job.
Well, thank you. We
Thank
try very
you.
hard.
Thank you.
All right, if that's
Caitlin, I do have one question based on his last comment. How are we doing on our calling in ahead and getting permission, our little permit thing to go out and hunt rain gauges at Mallory Swamp? I mean, seriously, how is that program going? That's a legitimate question.
Can you clarify your question?
The thing where we have our app or whatever, we're supposed to go in and get permission to use an activity on management land. How is that program? Are we seeing more requests and so forth?
Madam Chair. So we had, Lorna, that program is run, it's known as our Special Youth Authorization Program, and that is run through our land management program, and we had 650 last year. So those are all the folks that did make their request. I mean, I'm sure certainly there's times when folks forget to, but we don't obviously have a number on those. I will say that FWC is a great partner, especially in places like Mallory or where they do enhanced patrol for us, which is throughout the district, and they will typically check the SUAs for certain activities, so.
So if we could get Mr. Keith's outreach budget a little bigger, we might get a little more than that going on.
Amen.
Madam Chair.
If we could put hunting rain gauges in there, permission for that.
We are certainly open to whatever the direction the board would like to provide us regarding our budget and our
I was
spending.
just- Are people using it? That's all I'm asking.
Mallory Swamp loves our lands very well. But it's not just exclusive to Mallory Swamp. We have things, our HDS sites are shut up all over the district. What county was
Oh,
that?
my goodness.
Where is that?
Is that Dixie County too?
That's Dixie County too, isn't it?
Madison, Lafayette.
Madison.
Driving up from Dixie too, about.
Were you getting solar panels for your house, Tommy? Was that what
Yeah, I got the whole side of it, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
So all the sites that Vince mentioned that they have to go back out to and the non-scheduled visits, that's largely what he's talking about. Or the data stops reporting, or we have a cold snap freeze and the batteries fritz, and you can imagine. So, yes, that's all we have.
Thank you. All
Madam
right.
Chair, if I could add a couple of, to the point Mr. Harry was asking about on the SUAs. I have heard comments back from the public that they do like the automated availability of the SUAs on our website, so that was a very good improvement with that. The other thing was just an informational item. I just want to let the board know that I heard from the director over at St. John's, and their governing board approved the items relative to the Lower Santa Fe and Inchtuckney unanimously as well today. So just to let y'all know that.
Good, that's good news. Thank you. All right, any other conversation items we need to discuss today? If not, is there a motion to close our workshop?
We don't have to have a motion.
We don't have to have a motion?
We didn't call to order.
Man.
Sorry about that.
All right, Ms. Robin, are you ready for us? I think that'd be a great idea. Mr. Keith, can we get you to say the blessing for us?
Heavenly Father,